All right, we'll try there. So lying on your backs, just begin by feeling your contact with the floor. This warm pre-summer day. Feel the back of your head. And just notice if it's turned a little left or a little right. Feel how your eyeballs rest in your eye sockets. And are they looking, if you were to open your eyes, but at rest with your eyelids closed, are they looking straight up, or do they also look a little left or a little right? Is there any relationship there between your head and your eyes? Feel the backs of your shoulder blades. How much pressure is there against the floor behind the right shoulder blade and the left shoulder blade? How much contact, comfort. Feel your arms resting at your sides. Did you just flop them there in a relaxed sort of way, or did you place them in a certain position? Maybe just try lifting one up and just sort of flopping it down, and lifting the other one up and flopping it down, and seeing if where you flop your arms is the same place that you placed them to begin the lesson. Does one arm flop differently than the other arm? And sense the length of your spine from the base of your skull, the curve forward in your neck, the curve back towards the floor again, the arching of the lower back away from the floor, and the connection of the spine into the sacrum, which rests again fully on the floor. And then feel the weight of your hips and buttocks, the right side, the left side, the comfort or discomfort, the amount of pressure from side to side. Do you have a sense that your pelvis is slightly tilted one way or the other? And notice your right leg, the length, the width, the weight, and compare that to your left leg, the length of the left leg, the weight, the width, and just notice any differences that you can perceive. And then very gently roll your head a little left and a little right, but only as far as is simple, easy, and completely effortless. So where would be the first place in this gentle turning of the head that you would actually have to invoke the slightest amount of effort if you were to try to roll your head further? And don't do it, but just notice. And do you go a little more easily to one side than the other side? And then rest in the middle. And slowly roll your left leg a little out to the side until you feel your knee bending. Just so let the whole left leg be soft, rolling it out to the side until you feel that little bend in your knee. And just keep rolling until you feel the outside edge of the foot on the floor and your knee bends a little further. until you're sliding your foot up towards you and your knee is bending more and more. Out to the side, foot sliding up, and every once in a while you can lengthen your leg fully back down. And just explore this movement, rolling the leg out, sliding the outside of the foot up and up, bending the knee further and further, until you've drawn it up towards your buttocks as far as is comfortable, and then just bring your knee up towards the ceiling so you're standing through your foot. And just do that several times, slowly lowering the knee out to the side, feeling, does your pelvis tilt with this in any way? Sliding your foot down on your mat, lengthening the knee, and coming to rest with both your legs long. And then try it with your right leg. Rolling it. And just don't start with the full movement. Just start with a little bit of just experimenting. Where does your knee first want to bend? How much freedom is there in your hip with rolling out to the side? And at what point does the outside of your foot begin to touch the floor and slide along the floor? As you effortlessly bend your knee further and further and bring your knee up towards the ceiling and stand through your foot. And just try that a few more times. And after a couple tries, finish with your right knee bent and your foot standing. And then bring your left knee up so that both knees are bent and your feet are flat on the floor. And then just begin to tilt your knees a little to the left and back to the middle. And again, notice how easy is it to only go an inch and back to the middle, or is there something in you that feels like that's not enough, or oh, I'm not flexible, or is there something telling you some story about yourself? And can you let that go and then just come back to feeling what happens in the movement? What happens when you tilt your knees left? How does the pressure change across the soles of your feet? If you're able to increase the tilting to the left a little farther, just notice how far you can go comfortably. And feel how the pressure changes across the back of your pelvis. Tilt your knees to the left, can roll your pelvis a little to the left. Shift the weight over to the left side of the pelvis. And you might feel a rotation up your spine. For some of you, you might even feel a rotation happening in your ribs or your shoulders. So just notice, just by tilting your knees to the left as far as is easy and comfortable, how far up your spine and your trunk can you feel the effect of that movement? Can you feel it across the soles of your feet while feeling it through your pelvis, your trunk, and maybe even into your shoulders? and notice where your attention goes. In Feldenkrais, the lessons are as much about training yourself to attend to what you're doing right now, here in this moment, as actually creating movements to just feel better. Because as your mind learns to notice your now experience, there is more possibility of feeling better. Because you learn to take care of yourself, you learn to listen, you learn to pause. So next time your knees are in the middle, one at a time, let your legs down to your side and just pause for a moment. And see if there's any effect on how your right side is resting on the floor compared to your left side. From rolling to the left only, does that start to set up a more distinct asymmetry? Or maybe not. Sometimes these things jump out and they're really obvious, and other times they're not. Both are fine. The system is learning. And then once again, please slide your feet up one at a time. Bring your knees to standing. And really notice the placement of your feet. Are your feet in the best place to support your knees? Do your knees want to flop in a little or flop out? Are your feet too close or too far from your hips and buttocks? Maybe play around a little bit. What kind of difference does it make? Does it make any difference at all if you move your feet? Little differences, big differences? And then when you've found the most stable, comfortable, secure place for your feet, then begin the movement taking your knees a little bit to the right. And again, starting with a very small movement. Noticing first what's different about taking your knees to the right compared to the left. Is there any noticeable difference? Oh, this might be your easy side or your comfortable side, or maybe this is your side where you've historically had more challenges. So there might be the story about differences that you anticipate, but there also might be genuine differences of how you feel as you take your knees to the right and back to the middle. And feel how the pressure shifts across the soles of your feet as you take your knees to the left and back to the middle. Feel the pressure shifting on the back of the pelvis from the center, or a more even distribution from right to left, to shifting the weight all the way over to the right side. Notice how the pelvis rotates and influences the rest of your trunk. Do your ribs roll? Does your chest begin to turn a little bit to the right, or maybe it stays straight up towards the ceiling? Do you feel changes in pressure behind either of your shoulders? If your head was going to roll, would it want to turn to the right or to the left? And then again, just pause in the middle. And you can keep your knees up or down, whichever's most comfortable for you. Sometimes for people with low back discomfort, keeping the knees bent up is far more comfortable, but that's not always the case. And then bring your attention back up to your head and gently roll your head right and left, just to the point that is effortless. It doesn't have to be a big movement. In fact, sometimes it's the small movements that require us to listen even more carefully, to focus our attention in more detail. When we do the big gross movements that we're used to doing, we can space off and space out or fall into the patterns of movement that are most familiar to us, that don't require the kind of detail attention that's really going to serve to educate the nervous system. So as you roll your head a little left and a little right, just notice if you're tightening in your jaw or in your face, if your tongue is soft in your mouth. And just notice where your eyes go as you go left and right. Do they follow your head? And as you think left, does your head go first and then your eyes? Or do you actually look left and let your head follow? And as you think to your head to turn it to the right, the same. Which actually leads the movement, the head or the eyes? And you can try it both ways. So if you're not sure, try intentionally taking your head first and then letting your eyes follow. And then intentionally take your eyes to the direction you're moving and see if your eyes can, almost as if they initiate or invite the head to follow, moving in that direction. I suspect most of what we observe in our environment we catch with our eyes first and then orient our head to face it. And notice how you're breathing. And pause in the middle. And then see if you can take your head and eyes in opposite directions. So again, no big movements unless they're very easy and effortless. But rolling your head to the left, intentionally take your eyes to the right. And rolling your head to the right, gliding your eyes to the left. And can you notice how smooth do your eyeballs glide in your eye sockets as they roll in the opposite direction of your head? Is that something you're actually able to attend to? And then return to leading with your eyes and letting your head follow in the same direction. Just a couple times, 2 or 3 times, to the side. And then just rest in the middle. Take a full rest. Feel your weight on the ground. Feel the floor supporting the back of your head. Feel the floor as if it's coming to meet the back of your shoulders and just supporting you there, holding you there. Feel the ground lifting to support the back of your pelvis. How willing are you to let your body be supported? The back of your legs, your heels, your hands. Does the attention wander? Just bring it back. And one leg at a time, please bend your knees up again. And just gently begin rocking your knees left and right. Just as far as they'll go without any strain or concern of pain in your pelvis or your back or your shoulders. And for some of you that might truly mean a ½ inch or just the imagination of rotating your pelvis, of taking your knees from side to side. There's no need to push, no need to hurt. Just listen, moving your attention to the influence, how the pressure shifts across the soles of your feet to the inside and the outside as you take your knees from side to side. Feeling your pelvis rocking from side to side. And noticing that the line of pressure on the back of your pelvis, is it a straight line from one side to the other, or is there a bit of an arc? Maybe it arcs a little up or a little down. Maybe it's a squiggly line. And then see if you can begin taking your head gently in the opposite direction of your knees. And just noticing, does this change your breath? Is your face and mouth soft? What does your attention focus on? Does it focus on the knees, the back, the head? Can you expand your attention to feel everything happening from the pressure on the bottom of your feet to the pressure, the back of your pelvis and the back of your head? And where does the twist happen in the spine? If your knees and pelvis are rolling to the left, and part of your lower trunk begins to roll to the left, but your head is rolling to the right, so your neck and maybe part of your upper spine, maybe part of your shoulders is rolling to the right, or is it rolling to the left? Where does that twist happen? So focusing again into an area, right into the spine, trying to discover how far up does the left rotation go and how far down does the right rotation go, and then switching it. Maybe it's different when your knees go one way. Maybe how far up or down the rotation goes is different than when you switch directions. And if you can't feel at all where the rotation is happening, in your spine, does that make this movement less useful? And just bring your knees up to the middle, your head to the middle, and just rest with your knees bent. Feel the support of the floor. What's it like to imagine the gentle pull of gravity allowing your body to meet the floor? Right? Because if the gentle pull of gravity wasn't at its precise level of attraction, you might be touching the floor more lightly or not touching the floor at all. What's it like to be a speck of human being lying on this particular place on the planet that's spinning around, creating this particular gravitational force that holds you on so gently, so effortlessly? So again, return to the movement of taking your knees left and right and your head in the opposite direction. And do listen, make sure you're not noticing any nausea being evoked by this movement. So of course, don't do anything that doesn't feel safe or comfortable or nausea evoking. And see if as you do this, you can then take your eyes in the direction of your knees. So if your knees are going left and your head is going to the right, can you gently roll your eyes to the left? And then let your eyes go in the same direction with your head. And again, sort of ask yourself, are your eyes leading or is your head leading? Can you feel the feet rolling, the pelvis rolling, the weight shifting behind your shoulders and your head rolling? And then can you take everything together to the left and to the right in the same direction? Knees, head, eyes, all to the left. Knees, head, eyes, all to the right. And then just pause, rest in the middle, let your legs down long if that's comfortable for you. And feel the curves in your spine. From the base of your head, is there any difference in how you sense your neck arching away from the floor? How you feel the connection of your upper and middle back and ribs and shoulder blades being supported by the floor? How you feel your lower back arching away from the floor, your pelvis resting. And again, please bend your knees up one at a time. And hug yourself so that you bring one arm over to your shoulder and then wrap the other arm underneath the elbow, underneath the shoulder, so that they're not crisscrossed in midair. Very good. And with your left hand, just gently pull on your right shoulder, rolling your right shoulder towards the left. And then alternate with your right hand, rolling your left shoulder towards the right. Is that good enough? Do you want me to help your hands at all?
No, that's fine. I can't reach one.
You can't reach anyway? Okay, yeah. And just really make sure you're not, that the rolling is coming from the hand that's pulling. Just pay attention. And notice again, which way does your head want to roll? Which way do your knees want to roll? Just take your knees gently in the opposite direction. Very gently. No effort. Just playfully feeling that twist. Knees go left, elbows go right. And which way does your head want to go? Does it want to follow your shoulders and arms, or does it want to follow your knees? So start by letting it roll the same direction as your shoulders and arms. So if your knees go left, your shoulders, arms, and head go to the right. And if your knees tilt to the right, shoulder, head, arms go to the left. And if you're feeling playful, again, don't do this if it's just too distasteful, uncomfortable, or effortful. But can you make your eyes follow your knees? So shoulder, head, arms going to the left, eyes and knees to the right, and then switching. This is definitely one way to get you out of your thinking and planning mind. So the question is the only way to step into the now moment is to wrap you up in a pretzel? I doubt it. And then pause for a moment in the middle and switch your arms so the other arm is on top and the opposite arm is underneath. And you'll find that this feels less familiar because usually we just naturally cross our arms or cross our legs or interlock our fingers in what we call the habitual way. So just notice that moment of unfamiliarity. And then again, just gently explore pulling with one hand the shoulder over to the side and switching. When that's becoming comfortable and easy, you can add taking your knees in the opposite direction. And this time let your head follow your knees. And only if you're feeling tremendously experimental would you take your eyes in the direction of your elbows. But that's very advanced, so don't be hard on yourself if you just decide to take a breath and ignore that possibility. But if at one point in your life you were highly involved in ball sports, whether it's soccer or basketball, or even tennis, maybe baseball, but probably not as much, golf, there's a lot of counter rotation involved and sophistication involved in being able to move your eyes independently of your head and your trunk. Are you breathing? And is your jaw soft? And then let it all go. Take a full rest. And just listen Did you try too hard? Did you work too hard? Are you able just to fully relax and enjoy the after effects of this challenging movement to your nervous system? And then again, bend your knees up one at a time. And this time, cross your right thigh over your left thigh. So your knees are crossed, but your thighs are touching. So it's not your ankle over your knee, but it's a thigh-to-thigh knee crossing, if you're able. So you're balancing on your left foot. Just gently tilt your legs to the left and to the right. Feel how you balance through your left foot. Notice if this extra challenge changes anything in your breathing or in your face. Let your head roll in the same direction. And just take your eyes gently in the opposite direction. Just a few times. And then pause in the middle and cross the other leg over and begin tilting a little bit side to side, feeling, is this different? Maybe this is your more stable leg or your less stable leg. Maybe the balance through this leg and foot is easier or more challenging. So just notice first the differences. Maybe you go a little farther side to side or a little less far. And when you've become familiar with that, begin taking your head in the opposite direction.
Okay, now this way, this one I go this way? Mm-hmm. So it's ear to opposite.
Breathing, feeling all the way from the bottom of your foot to your knees, the back of your pelvis, the back of your shoulders, the back of your head. How much of that do you feel, or do you find that your brain has to jump from spot to spot? Both are fine. It's a skill. It's a skill to take your attention into one area and feel that deeply and clearly, and to be able to intentionally expand your attention, to expand your focus to the whole of yourself. Can you feel all of yourself moving and hear the cars outside? And then just pause in the middle, uncross your legs, and take a rest. Gently roll your head right and left, effortlessly, and notice, is it different? Is it easier? Is it lighter? Does it go farther? Is it softer? And with the same softness of the head rolling, find your way to roll onto your side, to sit up, and to come to standing. And when you're in standing, play a little bit with how you stand, how you turn your head, how you turn your pelvis. Stay in this experience. Let the influence of what the nervous system has been exposed to linger for a while. And then take it into walking. And enjoy the differentiation of your day. Thank you.